Wonder why every black boy in America wants to be a rapper or an athlete. Because we don't prioritize education, brothers and sisters. And they deliberately do not prioritize education, brothers and sisters, because there is a fear of black intelligence. Oh, yes, it is. See, what they don't tell you is most of the major inventions that America uses today came out of the minds of black people who did not get an education sitting next to white people. See, brothers and sisters, we invented the gas mask. And we wasn't sitting next to white children when we invented the gas mask. We wasn't sitting next to white children when we invented the stoplight. We weren't sitting next to white children when we invented the self-lubricating engine. We weren't sitting next to white children when we invented the refrigerated truck, the golf tee, the radio transmitter. We weren't sitting next to white children when we came up with the technology for the cell phone or the internet. All of these things we did on our own in those old, dilapidated black schoolhouses right here in Jacksonville, Florida. See, what y'all don't know is the reason the Supreme Court desegregated the schools was not to give black children a better education. The Supreme Court desegregated the schools on May 17th, 1954, because the white power structure was afraid that if we don't take over the education of black children, they may one day surpass our own children. You know what gave birth to these black Wall Streets? Those dilapidated black schoolhouses. And America was scared that if you don't bring the Negro under our direct academic supervision, he will surpass our white children. They didn't integrate the schools to help us out. They integrated the schools to dumb us down. You don't believe me? Guess what? Intelligence tests done on children from birth to age 5 reveal that African babies outperform the children, the infants of any other race, including the Asians. Our children outperform all other groups. They even tell you in developmental psychology that black children grow quicker than all the other children put together. Well, if the brain is responsible for intelligence, and if the brain is responsible for physical development, if the black child physically grows quicker than the other children, doesn't it also reason that the black child might be intellectually quicker than the other children also? That's why they came up with these IQ tests. I need you to understand something, Jacksonville, Florida. Testing came to America so they could segregate against black people. Let me say that one more time. The reason you got to take an LSAT to go to law school, the reason you got to take an MCAT to go to med school, the reason you got to take an SAT to go to college, the reason you got to take a GRE to go to grad school, the reason you got to take an exam to be a police officer or take an exam to be a fighter is because through the tests, they can engineer who passes and who fails. I'm going to go a step further because some of you are saying, no way. You're not going to convince me that they can engineer a test that will guarantee the whites pass and the blacks fail. How can they do such a thing, Dr. Umar? Let me explain it to you. Every test in the world goes through a process known as standardization. Let me tell you what standardization is, because I participated in the standardization for the most popular intelligence test in this country and the most popular achievement test in this country. Standardization is the process of testing the different demographics of your society. You pre-test everybody. Follow me. You're going to test poor black children. You're going to test rich black children. You're going to test single-parented black children. You're going to test black kids whose parents only have a high school diploma. You're going to test black children whose parents have a master's degree. You're going to do the same for the Arabs, the same for the Anglo-Saxons, the same for the Jews, the Arabs, the East Indians, the Latinos. Everybody, you're going to pre-test the test. So when they pre-test the test, they have the evidence of how you will perform on the final test. Stay with me. When your child takes a reading comprehension exam on the Florida State Assessment, the Georgia State Assessment, there might be 12 questions on that test. But the pre-test had 12,000 questions. The math section, it might be 12 questions. But the pre-test had 12,000 questions. My question for y'all tonight, how did they narrow down from 12,000 items on the pre-test that they gave the children all over America in secret? How did they narrow down from 12,000 items on the pre-test to the 12,000 items on the final test? They looked at how the black scored. They looked at how the white scored. They looked at how the Asians scored. So when you hear these news releases and programs telling you that black children are 10 points less intelligent than the whites, black children are 10 points less intelligent than the Asians, I need you to remember that Dr. Umar already told me that y'all tested the test before y'all came up with the final test, so y'all knew how the black children will do before they took the test. They engineer black failure. Do you know why? Standardized testing is the new Jim Crow sign. The way you keep black people out of opportunity is give them a test, engineer the test, and when they fail or score low on the test, you don't have to say, I'm keeping you out of grad school because you black. You say, I'm keeping you out of grad school because you ain't score high enough. The test score does the same thing the no blacks Jim Crow sign does. But the added advantage of the test score is you're using numbers and not words. And because you're using numbers and not words, black people think they have a fair chance. When we give an IQ test, brothers and sisters, there's 4 major sections of the intelligence test. There's processing speed, how fast you can execute intellectually. Black children do as well as Asians and Caucasians. There's working memory, how well you can hold information in your mind and manipulate it. Black children do as well as Asians and Anglo-Saxons. There's nonverbal reasoning, how well you can solve problems for which you receive no education, like a Rubik's Cube. Black children do as well as the Anglo-Saxons and the Asians. So if black children do as well as everybody else on processing speed, if black children do as well as everybody else on nonverbal reasoning, if black children do as well as everybody else on working memory, why is there a consistent 10-point black, white, black, Asian test score? You know why? I neglected to give you the final composite. And guess what that one is called? Verbal comprehension. Do you know what that is? That's the words and ideas white people use that black children never heard of, don't need to know about, and it has nothing to do with how smart you are. In fact, we call verbal comprehension crystallized intelligence. Do you know what that means? It is based on how well you've been educated. So what is it doing in an IQ test? IQ test is supposed to measure native intelligence, not learned information. So you know why they leave it in the IQ test? Because without it, there's no black-white test gap. The white privilege is in the verbal scale. So you say, Dr. Umar, why don't we get them to take it out? They'll never take it out. Because if they take it out, the fallacy of white intellectual superiority falls apart. And if they take it out, black children in Florida might start scoring higher than white children in Florida. And you can't have black children in Florida scoring higher than white children in Florida because you upset the status quo. Now you got to ask, why we only got 2 black students working on a medical degree at the University of Florida if blacks are scoring higher? Why you only got a handful of blacks at Florida State working on a law degree if the black kids are scoring higher? If the black children outscore the Asians and Anglo-Saxons, you no longer have an excuse for white privilege. So they use test scores to keep black people in their place. America tests more than any other nation on earth for that very purpose of denying opportunity. Because guess what, brothers and sisters? If you intend to teach everybody, you don't need a graduation exit exam. In fact, how is it possible that I can have straight A's and B's on my report card for 12 years and fail a graduation test? As Brother Malcolm said, you've been had, you've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok, and led astray. And we wonder why every black boy in America wants to be a rapper.